I just went on a trip to Japan and South Korea. Let's talk about it. So this was actually my first big trip that I've ever been on. I haven't actually traveled to a lot of places, so I guess this is why I'm here sharing my experiences as a first timer going to these places. Hopefully the viewers out there can relate to it and ask questions if you are a first timer like myself. So in Japan, I only went to Tokyo and Osaka. Those are the two main places we wanted to go. And then in Korea, in South Korea, I went to Incheon, Gangnam, Myeongdong, Hongdae, and then another snowy mountain place that I don't actually recall, but it was nice. In Japan, we spent 2 weeks and a half, and then in South Korea, 10 days. It was my first time there as well to both countries, so yeah, had to go in depth and a substantial amount of time, I guess, to explore everything.
It's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my clock, they tugging it. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it 100. Yeah.
Tokyo, the best thing that I experienced there probably be Disneyland. It was just, I think, an overall very immersive experience. It opened up, I think, about 8:30 a.m. Lines were already massive. People everywhere, flooding in. We dedicated a whole day, you know, getting there early, waking up early, traveling there, and then spending the whole day there. I think throughout that whole period of time, you never lost that immersion. You always knew that you were in Disneyland. Everyone was dressed up with their, you know, Mickey Mouse ears, headband. The lines were crazy long for rides if you wanted to do that. And the food was honestly not that great. But one of the best theme park experiences that I've been to. I haven't been to many. And then in Osaka, the best experience, I think it had to be the oyster I had. So we went to the fish market over there and there was an oyster about the size of my palm. Huge oyster, never had something that big before. Very daunting, but it was probably one of the best food items I've had in Japan as well because of just how sweet and fresh it was. It went down very easily and there was no aftertaste. The onsen was very cool. Huge culture shock because you have to take everything off. So that was an interesting experience, but it was just very relaxing, especially when you have that, you know, contrast between cold outside, because outside was about, at night, I think 0 degrees. So the outdoor pool, it was, you know, open to the air. There was no roof or anything like that. So you could feel the cold. And then when you go into the water, it was about, I think, 40, 50 degrees. So it was quite hot. And then that dynamic just made you relax and then appreciate, you know, or it felt like I was on a holiday. Yeah, so Mount Fuji was pretty cool. We were very fortunate that the weather was actually very good. So when we went there, I think we saw most of it. It was only the peak that was a bit cloudy, but that added an effect to it because it was like a mist ring over Mount Fuji almost. So that was really cool to see. So it was a one-day tour because we realized how far it was from where we were staying. And I think the tours are pretty good because they include the transportation to and from Mount Fuji, and they also take you around. There was a lake, we did a matcha ceremony. They also took us to a huge shopping district, which was incredible. I ended up buying a lot of clothes from there. The sales team there did an amazing job and they offered crazy deals that I couldn't resist. So I spent a lot of money there. Unfortunately, we couldn't go up Mount Fuji at that time because it was closed when I went, but we were still able to see it from different perspectives around the area, which was really cool. I definitely knew that Japan's food was going to be great and it's going to be very cheap. It was great and it was cheap. There was food everywhere. The convenience store foods. I think I tried most of it out. It actually felt somewhat healthy as well, which doesn't make a lot of sense because it's convenience store foods. You can just go by a day having breakfast, you know, lunch and dinner for probably under $30. So if you really budgeted well, you can actually spend a cheap holiday there, provided you get good flight tickets to Japan. It was very flat. There was no uphill or downhill. Just very flat, and it was very clean. One thing I can critique on it, it was very small. A lot of the buildings access was very small. I hit my head a lot on a lot of the infrastructure. So that was an interesting experience. Plan ahead. That is the biggest advice, because especially if you're traveling interstate and you have a lot of luggages, don't overplan as well, because that's a mistake I did, and I felt exhausted coming back from this trip actually, because we just had something to do every single day. And even on the days where we had break days that we planned, we still ended up finding something to do because there's just so much to do and see in Japan. The language is okay. It's actually quite foreigner friendly. A lot of the things when you go to order, especially at the ramen stores, you can select the languages from Japanese, Korean, English. So it's quite foreigner friendly. That was quite nice. Definitely bring some cash, because a lot of kind of street food items don't accept card. So cash is always good. And surprisingly, I realized that, well, it shouldn't be surprising, it actually makes sense after thinking about it. But if you do bring Australian cash or whatever cash you're carrying to that place, the exchange rate will be better than if you exchanged Japanese cash or yen through like a card system, just because they themselves need that money. So that's why they have a shortage of it, which is why they're willing to buy it at a better rate. Those are just some random tips, I guess, that I found. Korea is also a lovely place. Very different. There's a lot more hills, for one. The culture there, I think, is very different as well. We already knew that taxis were a viable option, so throughout the whole trip, I didn't catch a single public transport, which was kind of my mistake. I should have experienced that at least. But it was too complicated. We didn't have a lot of time. It was the end of our trip and we were tired, so we didn't do that. We just, enjoyed the luxury of taxis. They pick you up from anywhere. That was very surprising as well. You're in kind of a busy street filled with street vendors, people walking around, people busking. You go on the app and you click book, that taxi's on its way. And it's just filtering and feeding through, all these people slow and steadily. And that's normal in South Korea. So that was a very interesting thing that I got to experience. The nightlife in South Korea is very good. I couldn't believe that, I was out at 11 p.m. Everything was still open. Nothing looked like it had closed yet. The people got even more. It was a lot more foreigner-friendly experience than compared to Japan. I always kind of make this comparison because in Japan, there is a lot of people out at night as well. And it's very similar where things close very late. The only downside of it is that a lot of things are booked out. You have to end up going, walking a little bit until you see a smaller shop with not a lot of people, and then you go in there to eat, which is still a nice experience, but it's very different, I feel. And one thing as well that you have to look out for is the red light district. So not just the red light district, but actually a lot of how should I say, customer service representatives on the streets. They're inviting you to go in. Now you could just be thinking it's just drinks, but it's not just drinks. So yeah, knowing the language is definitely very important.
Won't be long. I'm there before the setting sun. For you to fall into my arms.
Rating Japan and Korea. This is a very hard question because two different countries have to offer very different things. Out of 10, I would give Japan maybe an 8.5. And the reason I'm not giving it a 10 or anything higher than 8.5 is because I haven't explored all of Japan yet. I think the next time that I go to Japan, it'll be more exploring the rural stuff, which I didn't get to see much. We only went to Nara Park in Osaka, which is, you see a few deers. And that was cool. It was honestly a bit sad seeing the deers out there, just hungry. And then people just feeding them crackers. Like, surely that's not nutritious for them. But maybe I'm thinking too much. South Korea rating. South Korea, I will give it... No, here comes the question. Did I like my trip in South Korea better or in Japan? Okay, South Korea, I give it an 8. The reason I gave it an 8 is because we were tired and it was at the end of the trip. Well, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions about Japan or South Korea, please put in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Even though I'm not an expert, I think it'll be cool to interact if you have any questions of that sorts. But yeah, definitely leave a like and subscribe. We will have a lot more content like this coming forward and moving ahead. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next video.
But now I'm on my way back home.